Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to go over how to make a Battleship board in Microsoft Excel, and I'm going to be doing it in the Windows desktop application, but if you're using a MacBook or if you're doing it online, Microsoft 365 online, it's very similar. If you are online, make sure that you click the triangle, the caret in the right of your ribbon, and make sure classic ribbon is selected so that it looks similar to what I'm using. And we're going to start off by going ahead and saving our document like we always do when we open a new file. And this will be similar to what you did earlier in Microsoft Word earlier in the quarter. Go to File, Save As. I'm going to go ahead, go to the Browse, go to my CMPS 101 folder. Just type in Battleship board, save it, something like that. And do that in whatever application you're using. It's a little bit different on 365 Online. And to start off with, these are our columns labeled by letter and then our rows. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm on A1, type in Battleship board. Because it's a title, you don't always have to do this with Excel titles, but you'll see it a lot. We want it bolded. So I'm going to go ahead and select my text by left clicking and dragging. And up here in the ribbon, I'm under the Home tab. I'm going to click Bold. And you can see it bolds my text. And then we want it to be a little bit larger. I think maybe I'll go up to 18. And as you can see, my text has gone bigger and it's not quite fitting. So the way to help it fit in your rows in this instance is you want to go in between the 1 and the 2, in between the 2 rows, left click and drag it down. And it didn't do it that time because my computer's acting a little buggy, but when you put your cursor in between the 2 rows, it'll change to this line with an arrow pointing up and an arrow down, as opposed to just this arrow on the right. So when you get that cursor and you left click, hold, and drag it, you can adjust the height. And it's similar in the columns. You can left click, drag. And instead of, we could do this, but then the whole column changes width, and that's not what I want to do or what we want to do. Let's go ahead and do what's called merging a cell. And what that basically does is combine the cells in a row. Notice I'm going to go start at A1, left click, drag, have A through C, A1 through C1 selected, and then there's a merge and center option here under the alignment section of the Home tab. Merge and center just puts it in the middle of the cells you selected. Go even further out. For example, I could do A1, left click, drag all the way to E1. Merge and center. I have to click it twice because it undid it. And voila. I now have my Battleship centered in the selected cells. And from there, what we want to do is create our actual board. And to do that, we're going to go to the B2 cell, so B2, and we are going to left click and hold and drag all the way down to K11. I'm going to go to K and go to 11, and I now have this completely selected. I'll do that one more time, starting at B2, go over to K by left clicking, dragging, go down to row 11. And we want to make a border around these cells. The way to do that is under the font section in Microsoft Word, or Excel, excuse me, you'll see this border option. And we actually want to go to the drop down menu, because we don't want just the bottom border, we want a full border. So you can click on that, and you'll see an option for outside borders. We'll just do the regular one. It's fine. And when we let go, we now have a rectangle that is making up our board. And typically though, in Battleship, it's going to be a square, your board that is. And what we want to do now to make it a square is to make our rows, the cells in them, larger. And the height larger. And the way to do that is if you, I'm going to start at 2, the top of my board. Over here on the very left, you'll see my cursor. Left click, drag down all the way to 11. I'm going to let go. And I have all of these selected. Now, when I get my cursor in between a row, I'm just doing 5 and 6, but you can do any in between any of the rows that you have selected. If you left click and drag, I'm going to go to, it tells you how many pixels it is. I'm going to go to maybe 55 or so. Let go, and it adjusts every single cell in the rows you have selected. And as you can see now, it looks more like a square. It's pretty close to. And I can't see all of it, so I'm going to minimize out a little bit. You can do that by here on the bottom right, zoom out. Also, it might not be like it, I don't think that's where it is on the online version of Excel. So you might have to hold down your Alt key and then use your your Control key. And then use the scroll on your mouse in between your 2 clickers. And you'll be able to adjust the zoom. What we need to do now is copy this board onto a new sheet. So you can create multiple sheets in Excel, and you're on sheet 1, and you can hit a plus button, but that's not actually what we want to do, because we want to copy this exact board. And the way to do that is to right click and then go to move or copy. And then make sure sheet 1 is selected in this dialog box. Go to create a copy and click OK. And you now have 2 different sheets that have the exact same information on it, in this case your Battleship board. And to finish off your board, and I will explain the game when we reconvene as a class, but you need to create your ships and Battleship. And the way to do that is, well, first of all, you need 4 different ships, and one of them is 6 cells. You need one that's 5 cells, one that's 4 cells, and one that's 3 cells. And you cannot go diagonal, you can only go horizontally or vertically. And you want to create these, or put these different ships in random spots or places that you feel are strategic and hard for your opponent to guess. Again, we'll go over the rules here in a little bit. But you want to have them a little more random and not all next to each other. And so I'm going to start by left clicking, making my 6 tile, my 6 cell Battleship. So I'm going to go ahead and put it here. You'll need to put it somewhere different. some are random. And so I have 6 cells selected. There is the paint bucket up here under font, and that fills our cells. That's the fill color. I don't want bright yellow. I think it's going to be better if you go for, we'll go for something that is actually close to the color of battleships in the board game. So I'm just going to pick this gray right here. So I have my 6 cell battleship. I'm going to make my 5 cell. You don't have to click the down arrow again once you have a color selected. If I want to change the color, I'd have to click the down arrow, but because gray is selected now, it's going to click gray. Then I'm going to have my 4 cell battleship and my 3 cell battleship. Maybe put it up here. So I now have my 4 battleships. And you do not need to put it on the other board, as we'll explain. I'll explain in a little bit. But you are now prepared to play Battleship. And like I said, I'll go over the directions when we reconvene as a class.